The Mounted Police that started over 100 years ago. First started because they wanted to have a little bit more deployment for Stanley Park. The cars were really coming in and there was less and less need for horses. Around that time, there was a visit coming with the King and Queen. They needed to revamp the mounted unit real quick to help with the procession. We've been going strong since then. We got up to 12 horses in the barn during our Olympics in 2010. We're not quite as big anymore. We got 9 horses currently. We're trying to get back up to 10. Our celebration of lights is one of our big events in the summertime. Our next major event is going to be the FIFA World Cup. And horses, they always do better when there's a bigger herd, so it's nice to have friends. Any horse, it just exponentially makes them feel a bit more comfortable.
Today we have Stanley, and we think he's 4 or 5 here, or I think he is. He's a standardbred off the track, and he might be a police horse. Takes a very specific horse to be a police horse. We use Jack as a bit of a draw, so that when we're taking Stanley for his first few trots and move out, that he's not just so sucked back. An older horse like this, and he needs to feel like he can go forward. So our main issue, take the brace out so that we could stop him if something went wrong. But also, we got to get forward, and there's a few different ways I'm going to work at it in this session. Forward's going to be the key, Stanley. That is a big moving horse.
We've had guidance with Jonathan Field. He's been the one that's kind of put us on the horsemanship journey to ensure that we're going to have that great relationship with our horses, and they're going to be with us. The horses were having some behavioral issues, and we needed someone with the expertise that could help us get back on the right track. So not only did he help us with the horse, he helped us.
Usually when you get a call from the cops, it's not a good thing, but the cops did call, or the police did call. Their trainer retired, they had some older horses that also retired, and they were left with all of these really young horses and a bunch of green riders, because these riders are coming into the unit from any part of the Vancouver Police. Right about there. You see it?
Absolutely.
And there was one particular instance where we were trying to help this horse named Nelson, and Joanne was in the unit at that time, and Nelson was, a very challenging horse, and Joanne ended up coming off in the park, in the Stanley Park. So we're going to do something a little different here, Susan. You and I have some fun. And they called me and said, Jonathan, what can we do? I said, you know what? COVID just happened. It basically wiped out everybody out of my camps. But it turns out some essential service people need help with horses. I intentionally kind of leave this a little lower on his nose. It could be adjusted up, I know that. But because he has a little bit of bolt in him, I like to have a little extra leverage. So you take it way up and you have less. I aligned with them because I respected that they wanted to do what's right by the horse always. They were always making those decisions to put the horse first. So it was a really good fit. So, I'm always getting you in trouble. Hey, Susan?
You are.
Always like, what's he up to?
I hate it when it's just the two of us, too, because, there's nobody else to distract from you.
Then you get all the attention. Why I might stay on when someone else won't is because as soon as that horse moves, I feel a tiny out of balance, and my body sends that signal to my brain, and my brain sends that signal back to my body to put myself back in balance. Where someone else, they might not feel themselves coming out of balance. Mm-hmm. And by the time the signal gets from their pad of their stirrup up to their brain and back to their body to get in, they're on the ground. The signal's not working quick enough. That's what this is about. I just love when they engage and they're like, wow, this is such great lessons overall about learning about communication and leadership. There's always, lessons that overlay between horsemanship and communicating with horses. And then, of course, lessons that overlay into dealing with people. Good deal.
That's so fun.
Isn't that a riot? And I found that my entire career, the better I get at feeling and understanding what a horse is saying to me and listening before I try to be understood and really try to understand what's happening, it gives me a better opportunity to be able to communicate when the right time comes.
Having this way of thinking is more that we're going to be working with the horses rather than we're telling the horses what to do type of thing. So we're in this partnership But it's still going to be a leadership. We want them to follow us. We'll do things together, and they're going to go further with us rather than us trying to force them to do things. And so we're slowly building up some of the newer horses so that they're going to feel comfortable and get ready for going out, do their work in the city. Basically, our criteria is that they're going to be 16 hands minimum. So for horses, they're a flight animal, and they've survived for years because their first instinct when any danger happens is they're going to run. They're just going to take off. So that's why we will tend to try to get more of a draft type of horse.
So today we're going to play with Bud here. Bud's new to the mounted unit. He was actually a horse that was with the carriage unit. He just didn't want to stand still. These lovely people over here, they have the most beautiful draft horses that they do the carriage rides around Stanley Park. But Bud will probably be a better fit for the VPD. And they're actually just going to test him here.
He's learned to open the gates already. So.
Has he already learned to open gates? Okay, Bud. Let's see how this goes. Has he been ridden?
I've only ridden him 3 times so far.
Oh boy. I've been bucked off in front of 8,000 people before, so I'm not opposed to having it happen here today. They were just way over their head at that time, and I did a clinic with them in Stanley Park and just tried to give them anything I could. And we just started to go through horsemanship and teach them my program and learn about horses and learn about behavior and what the foundation is and how do you develop a relationship.
So we're constantly training with our different horses. We're trying to get them out as much as we can. So this guy, Angus, he's one of our newest guys. He's a paint. He wants to be the top dog. In this case, the alpha horse. If they can, put their trust in that alpha horse or in us, then they can feel at ease and they can do their thing. So they're always going to be testing. They're always going to be wanting to see, are you going to take care of me? Every day they're going to test you.
Hey, you're all right. You can come with us. Attaboy, that didn't even require the horn. Get this forward going. Beautiful. Just let him get comfortable with this. Wow. How cool, Stanley. Because of his discipline, racing, he's been taught to be very straight, and under pressure, stay straight. So we have to be able to have him kind of get almost a hair loose. Like he got right there, just a little bit overpowered, a little bit loose, and then I could just bend him and shut him around. This is a situation that, pressure means power up, stay straight, go faster. And that's a common thing with the racehorse. One of my mentors, Pat Pirelli used to always say, try to bring him to the edge of trouble without putting him over the edge of trouble. Oh, you're do good now. He's a clever guy. I like this horse, but I like them all.
We've got one sergeant, 5 constables that work within the unit. I just actually came down to have coffee with the sergeant one day, and she told me that there's a spot opening up, and I'm like, well, I don't really know a lot about riding. She's like, well, it's a small unit and we need to train together quite a bit, so we need someone that'll be a good fit, and we can teach you how to ride a horse. And so I'm like, okay. So I applied and I got one of the spots. We were inside the little paddock riding around forever before they would deem us at a point where they felt like we had enough control with the horse that we could go outside and start riding through Stanley Park. And that was kind of our first outing, and just go around River Lake once and come back. And just slowly build, like kind of make your circles go bigger, bigger, bigger type of thing. So.
And if we have a blank, it can't be at the back, ever. Anything else, Ed?
I was listening. Can you say it again?
What's the first part?
Checking for smiles.
We had like a 6-week basic course, and we did the course, and they were like, okay, let's go out. They're like, no, you're not ready yet. So I was like anxious to get out to start doing my police work outside of the barn. Luckily, my sergeant and my co-workers, they were just kind of holding me back to ensure that I was safe before I would go out with my horse.
It's fun to see, the rhythm, the balance, the leadership come into play with a horse. Because, like I said, some of these people have never been on the back of a horse before they got into the unit. Of course, then they have the dual job of being a police officer at the same time. They've got their whole belt with a gun and the radio and everything else, and they've got a radio in their ear, and we're walking and we're actually on patrol. They are actually on patrol. And their radar has to look outward. What's happening in the surroundings? And with horses, we have to feel inward and see, what does this horse need right now? And especially with a new rider that's a good police officer looking outward, looking into the public, it's a talent to do that. But then also be able to remain connected to the horse and plugged into the horse, so to speak, is really the challenge in that job.
You can't hide anything from the horses. They sense it right away. Like they'll know, like, what's going on, Chris? There's something happening up there, and I need to control myself as well. So I just got to reassure my horse that he's going to be fine. And when he feels that I'm okay, he feels great too. So we just got to do it together. That's another bonus for me at work is I do get the equine therapy. They're very caring. Like they're always trying to nuzzle in on you, and you get to pet them all the time, and they really enjoy being groomed and getting that connection with each person. I've been here for 4 years, and when I got here we had 6 horses, and since then they've all been retired. So we're dealing with a brand new herd. So it's been a process, and we're building up our herd so that they're going to be confident. A long time ago, they used to exclusively be standardbreds the Vancouver Police had, and then they moved to more of the draft horse. But the standardbred are a very reliable horse, so it's nice to see that we've got standardbreds back in the herd.
We got Brockton within the past year. He's about 11 years old. He spent about a year on the track as a youngster, and then he was sitting in the field for a little while because of an injury. And then they tried him back at the track and he didn't work out, so he's been donated to us. But he doesn't really bend, he just goes straight. He has trouble keeping track of where his legs are, but he really tries hard, and so we'd like to give him the best possible start we can.
He does. He's so friendly. With a nice gem like him, we just want to slowly teach, give him the best chance he can to learn. And he's only been in one world, and he's just a real great guy, but he just has to learn these things.
So we've got a rubrics of things that they have to accomplish to be able to be signed off on, so to speak. Along with our sergeant, they kind of all put their heads together and they make the decision as far as when they feel that the horse is deployable and it's going to be an official police horse. We'll slowly start introducing some different nuisance for them to see how they'll do. A lot of it comes down to a leadership part of things and me saying it's going to be okay. And so then he needs to listen to that. A lot of the horses that we get have never been in the city, so it's a slow process. And basically what we do is we'll start them in the park and then maybe just touch base in one busy street and then come back to the park and just slowly build it up so that they're going to be comfortable, all the different things that you might see in the city. So it's just a process, and we just try to slowly get it moving in a positive way so that they're going to have success with each step that they take. A lot of it is going to be the fear of the unknown. So we need to just see more and more of it, but in very small doses so that they can feel comfortable with it and accept it. And then eventually it's a non-issue. Once they kind of get to a point where we feel like they can be deployable and we feel like they're going to make a good police horse, then they'll get their position with their little badge. They're going to be coming out on patrol with us. So we have a lot of horses that wash out, so it's always a huge accomplishment when these guys make it through. For Stan, we've been working a lot on his band, and that's helping him feel a lot more supple. Yeah, we had another standardbred. We had to retire him. He had a bit of a arthritis problem, so he ended up washing out. But it's interesting to compare Stan and the other horse, Brockton. Brockton was straight as an arrow, and Stan was pretty straight when he started with us, but he's come so far and understands that he can get that nice feeling with the band. I guess I'm thinking it would go against everything he's been taught and everything that he's known, is just to be as straight and fast as possible.
When I see a horse like Stanley make it through, get his own badge, he's out there, he's got this second life. And that's what I really like that the Vancouver Police Mounted Unit have done, is they're offering some of these horses a second life. And if they're a fit, it's really exciting for me. And if they're not a fit, it's something that I find also quite pleasurable, because I'm like, yes, we're doing what's right for the horse. The horse is not a city horse. The horse is going to have a better life somewhere else. So it's fun when you see a horse like Stanley get there, because you're proud of him. I started him, and now he's patrolling around, and he's just become this amazing horse. Imagine the person that's going to get Stanley after this. This horse has done everything, and as a result of all the training and the exposure that he got in the mounted unit, he's even more set up for success.
I think years ago there used to be a lot more of the beat cops, and you'd see the police on the street and you get to know them personally back in the day. And nowadays we're much more modernized, and so we're more often in a police car, and unfortunately there's so many police calls that they have to go call to call, and they're not a lot of time to interact with the public. It definitely helps that you have a horse that's going to be happy and enjoying his life, and this guy is a good example of that. He's a great ambassador for us. This is my partner, and we're going to get through things together, and people see that and they recognize that that's a good looking couple, so to speak.
It is fascinating watching people respond to the horses, and thereby connecting with the police officers that are on them. But it's just fascinating, the multiple roles that the mounted unit can play, in a real practical application that they talk about all the time, in, being there for the public. Every person that I've met has just been just wonderful people. Yeah, it's been a real highlight in my career, and just something that I've really enjoyed in my life.